Hey, welcome back. I'm excited to spend a little bit of time with you. Today we're going to be talking about how to be consistent and why that's so important. And there's a great quote of somebody you would probably recognize, Will Smith. He said something along the lines of, you don't set out to build a wall, right? So if we're talking about building a great life, we don't always see the big picture of being able to do that. But what we can do is we can get really good at laying each brick. And by doing that, laying each brick as perfectly as we possibly can, by the end of our life, we can look up and have something special. And so our ability to be able to do that is through consistency. There's not a lot of things that we can spend a little bit of time on and expect it to continue to grow. So for instance, there's generally some things that we want to build in our life. A lot of times maybe a business or be better financially. Maybe we want to be better with our spouse, better with our kids, better with our health, better with our faith life. So all of those things come into consideration. But what I want to challenge you on is there's only a couple of areas where we can spend a small amount of time in investing in that and allow it to grow into the future for us. So it's kind of funny, but could you have a baby and then spend maybe the first few months feeding this baby and then let them kind of grow up and take care of themselves after that? Doesn't work that way, right? You know you're in for a commitment for at least 18 years. What about a spouse? Could you spend some time together, go through the courtship, get married, and then start ignoring your spouse and expect to have a great life? It's not going to work that way. What about your health? Could you eat really healthy for maybe 2 years and then eat whatever you wanted to for the rest of your life and expect to still be healthy? That's not going to work either. What about our faith life? Could we be really good with our faith life for a couple of years and then stop investing time in that and allow it to continue to get better? It's not going to really work either. But can we do that with our business? Can we do that with our finances? We can. We can spend a short amount of time investing into a business, investing into something that's going to build residual income for us, and then allow it to take off on its own if we have a proper system. The other thing that we can do is we can build up a bunch of money. We can do a great job with our finances, allow it to grow to something that will continue to grow for us. So what I want to challenge you on is being consistent, but also being consistent in the right areas, and why it's important to dedicate some time to what we're talking about here, because you can make a small investment and be consistent for a couple of years to forever be inconsistent in it and build consistency in other areas like your faith, your family, your spouse, your health, all of those things. So let's talk about spending a little bit of time in this stuff and being consistent in your business and your finances now so you forever have the freedom to do what you want for the rest of your life. Because here's the challenge of what people usually do. Life has ups and downs, right? And so for some reason, we seem to always want to kind of go with the tide. So when we feel good, we'll do business, right? And when I feel good, then I want to do calls. And when I feel good, I want to run appointments. But then what happens when we don't feel good? And then oftentimes we'll stop. And so the power of business really comes in being consistent on doing it whether you feel good or not. Because especially as you become an entrepreneur, here's the challenge. You still have to do it, but nobody's going to hold you accountable to it. So when you don't feel good and you don't show up to your job, somebody's going to call you and say, hey, you're fired if you don't show up tomorrow, right? But you don't have that in business. Business is very forgiving. So it'll allow you to take a lot of time off, but the only person that suffers is you. So we've got to build that consistency that regardless of if we feel like it today or not, we're still able to do that. And here's what starts to happen for you is after 21 days is statistically the turning point for changing a habit. And so maybe that initial habit for you was not going out there, or not, if you had extra time, was not to actually spend it on your business. Maybe it was watching TV, or maybe it was doing something else, or maybe your habit was not being very strict with your time and being a little bit lackadaisy on a lot of those things, or maybe you've been setting big goals and you haven't really been trying to accomplish them. So building this consistency for 21 days, if you can make 3 weeks, you can keep a new habit. And so I want to challenge you to start building some of those new habits. I'm not saying change everything right now. Pick 1 or 2 things that you can really work on. Start building that new habit. One of those might be time management, because here's what's really important. You can watch the other video on time management as well. I don't want other areas to rob other areas of your life. So what I mean by that is when we get consistent, when we can focus on work when we're at work, then work doesn't rob our family time. Work doesn't rob our faith time. But what also shouldn't happen is we also shouldn't rob our work time. We shouldn't have faith interrupt our work time. We shouldn't have health stuff interrupt our work stuff. Now, obviously, we can't avoid some of it, but when we're very specific about those times and we can be committed to them, that means you can be with your family and be consistent with them. You can be there, you can be present. I'm not talking about watching TV together. I'm talking about being present with your spouse, being present with your kids, having a date night, spending actual time together with them. But you can only do that if we focus on work while we're at work, and then we focus on family while we're with family. And so that way you can always be where you need to be. So I challenge you, work on being a little bit more consistent, work on making your word your bond, and keeping those things that you say you're going to do.